me having a realization when I finally got sober. You're in jail, you're pregnant, on twins, you have a daughter that you don't see, you have an amazing mother. I'm in jail. Like this is not where this is supposed to, how this is supposed to go.
Hey everyone, tonight's guest, Brittany Stockley, is a single mom of 3 in her 6th year of recovery, and she's here to tell us all about her incredible journey. And if you don't know who I am, watch this. I spent a year and a half on the streets. Addiction took me there. Pain took me there. My name is Donna, person in recovery, domestic violence survivor, mother of 2. I spent years running from myself, but no more. I've come to find peace, and I am not here to light a candle. I am here to set fire to the darkness and give voice to the voiceless. I hope you'll join me and my guests as we face the stigma around addiction and tear down the walls of oppression. This is not a safe space. This is a brave space. This is Phoenix Fire. Okie doke. So before we bring in Brittany, I'd just like to point out that today's live production is brought to you in part by Prairie Sky Recovery Centre in Leipzig, Saskatchewan. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by Stronger Together Canada, peer-led support groups through Mums Stop the Harm. To learn more about our sponsors, head over to www.hardknockstalks.com. Okay, let's bring in Brittany. Hello there.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm
Good.
all right.
That's great to hear.
All right.
Is there anything you'd like to say before we get started?
I'd just like to thank you for and your partner for having me on here to share this very important message. I appreciate the opportunity.
We appreciate you agreeing to come on. So I guess where we generally start is, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood?
Okay. So I was born in Nova Scotia and lived there until I was 8. From as far back as I remember, my mom was a single mother. It was me, my mom, and my sister, and my mom always referred to us as the 3 Musketeers. We were really close. We life was good. We moved to Newfoundland when I was 8, and life was still good. I was happy to go from a small town to what seemed like this big city. Not a super big city, but a big city for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was happy about that, to be in a new school and with new friends. And yeah, everything was still pretty good until my mom fell ill when I was 11. And that's kind of when my childhood took a turn. So she fell ill in the summer that I was 11. I remember being active. I was in gymnastics this summer. Well, I was always in sports or activities, but I was in gymnastics, and I remember my mom complaining about her muscles hurting and not having an appetite. And from this summer through to the following Christmas, she had progressively gotten worse. She worked for an animal hospital as an accountant, and she was working less and less and just staying home, always in bed. So Christmas Day had approached, and she didn't really get up. She had gotten up for us to open our gifts and then had spent the day in bed. So her brother, who I guess I remember that her brother is a police officer, and I remembered him coming in his patrol car on Boxing Day. And he said, Dean, this is enough now. You're going to have to go to the hospital and figure out what's going on. So he had taken her into the hospital, and for a while my mom had, I guess, put it off because she didn't have anyone to watch myself and my sister. So my sister was 5 years older than me, and either way, my nan had come in from around the bay to watch us while my mom had gone to the hospital. She had assumed, she would be in hospital for a couple weeks. They'd figure out what was wrong with her and she'd be on her way. And that wasn't the case. So over that 2-week period, or the next 2 weeks, she had progressively gotten worse still, doctors didn't really know what was going on. They had speculated different things, tried different medications. There were reactions to different medications. I didn't really know what was going on. I just knew that
Mm-hmm.
she was in hospital. I remembered visiting her, and one point being like, this is not my mom, because she had said, can you get mom's keys out of Nan's purse? And she wanted to leave the hospital, but I knew that this mentally wasn't her. So either way, with doctors going back and forth with what was going on with her, they didn't know. A day had approached where my mom had said she couldn't feel her feet. Now, the doctors on this day were discussing transferring her over to the mental hospital, because I guess they had assumed that they didn't know what was going on with her. This must just be in her head. But it was that same day that she had actually been transferred to the intensive care unit, where she quickly got worse. She ended up paralyzed from the neck down with a feeding tube and a trach, and her brain was working, but her body just was not at all. She couldn't do this to give her kids a kiss.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't speak. So at this point, I remember leading up to this, like feeling scared that my mom was sick, because at this point my sister was a little older, so she'd have sleepovers at her friend's house and it would be just myself and my mom home. So I do remember one night when my mom was sick before she had gone to the hospital, and I had heard this big smash. So I got up and I had seen my mother on the floor unconscious with the shower door on top of her. And being a child and not knowing what was going on, this is when I started having these fears of, at that night, I didn't know if she was dead or alive.
Mm-hmm.
So I started building these anxieties, I guess. And before my mom had gone in hospital, and wanted to always sleep like on the floor in her room,
Mm-hmm.
even just so I could kind of like watch out for her.
Yeah.
But then for the 2 week period before she ended up in the intensive care unit, my class was making get well cards, and we had brought in teddy bears and such to my mom. So this day I had woken up, and my grandmother, was the type, I didn't pour my own juice. She just took care of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So this morning I had woken up and nobody was home. And it was unlike my grandmother to ever leave me home by myself. So I see all of my mom's hospital like cards and teddies and such there on the floor. So again, this was another time where I had felt like, what's going on? Did
Mm-hmm.
my mom die? I don't remember later on that day, but during this time frame, my mom couldn't communicate speaking, like verbally, so she had to communicate with a clipboard that her nurse would hold, and it had the alphabet, and each row would have so many letters. So they would point to each row, and she would blink at the row and then blink at the letter to communicate what she wanted to say.
Wow.
So my father was in Texas, and he, I guess, wasn't willing to come back here. He was in Texas at that point in my life, but I ended up in foster care. So I do have a fairly large family, so I think that had an effect on me, having a large extended family and going into foster care. But
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot in between, that there was so much going on that I don't really, I didn't, I wasn't really upset about that, because I didn't know what was going on. I do
Yeah.
remember a conversation with a social worker the first time I had spoke with a social worker, and it was at my kitchen table. I don't remember too much, just the blankness of the table and the lady's face and the feeling that I had right here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't remember a very long conversation, but it was the conversation about me going into foster care.
And sorry,
And
how old were you at that time?
I was 11.
Okay. And did anybody explain anything about what was going on, or was there an explanation really
No
about?
one, no one had explained really what was going on. My aunt had said the day that I left my mother's home that it was goodbye, or it was see you later, not goodbye. But no one really explained the extent of what was going on to my recollection.
Mhm. Fair enough.
Um, so she, I ended up going into foster care. I remember first arriving at the foster home. I was separated from my sister because she's 5 years older than me. So, because of her age, I ended up in foster care and she ended up under another type of system where she would be basically living by herself.
Hmm.
So, I was separated from my sister and I was living in a foster home that um, was taking advantage of the system and was mistreating me. This particular home, I wasn't assaulted or anything as such, but I was barred in my room. And it was as if I didn't exist and I wasn't allowed out of the room. They had another foster child who was the same age as me and would play computer games and would watch TV and would go outside on his scooter. And I wasn't allowed out of my room. I was not at that time, although I was going through a lot, I was not acting out. It was probably the calmest, quietest, like I kind of was. I remember reading a
Mhm.
lot, reading a
Mhm.
lot. And I was put on a bunch of medication. Now, mind you, I was definitely experiencing trauma,
Mhm.
but I was brought to a doctor and I was put on a medication. And I think that this foster family had exasperated my issues that I was experiencing to get the extra financial support for having a child with more special needs. And
Mhm.
either way, when I had eventually, well, sorry, I have to go back. This home I was in for a few months, and it was Easter Sunday, and I got a call that I could go visit my mom. And I hadn't seen my mom in months. It's the rules or regulations that you need to be at least 12 and an immediate family member to visit someone in intensive care. And of course, I was only 11. So
Mhm.
I couldn't visit my mom, but this day I was going to visit her. I didn't know why, but I was excited to go see her. And no one had explained anything more other than I was going to see my mom. And when I got there, she had the feeding tube and the trach, and she didn't look like my mom.
Mhm.
And I think that was when I experienced my first time having physical symptoms of anxiety, where I started sweating. I started feeling nauseous. I started feeling weak. The nurses had noticed that and they asked if I wanted water, if I wanted to stay, and I got some water. And my sister also was feeling the same way. And we stayed. I remember seeing a tear go down my mom's eye, and I had left the hospital, and I just thought it was a visit with my mom. I
Mhm.
didn't know that the doctors were giving my mom, I think it was 3 days to live at the time, and they were calling me in to say my goodbyes.
Mhm.
And I didn't know that. But when I returned to the foster home and went back to the room where I spent all of my time, other than eating, I returned to a post-it note on the bed that said, "It's okay if your mom dies. You can live with us." Okay. Um, So that was Easter. I stayed in this home until June. And in June, my aunt had contacted the foster home to get in touch with me, and the foster family didn't allow me to speak to them. And my aunt had looked into this, and this foster home had eventually lost their license. And I don't know the investigation, but I was moved. I was moved
Okay.
to another home where my mom had started getting better at this time. Her condition was a rare neuropathy, and I can't tell you the name right now, but it mimics Guillain-Barré syndrome, also pronounced Guillain-Barré syndrome. Very rare. Um, and the condition has two types of treatments. One is a pill form, and one is some type of IV treatment, which my province, the neurologist that I see, was my mom's neurologist, and he remembered her case because he only gets about four of them a year. It's so rare. So he had explained that this province doesn't even do the IV form, but he believed that this is what she had, and he was going to do this, and he had given her the IV treatment, and she moved her toe. And she started getting better. So it was June that I was moved to the other foster home, which was a much better foster home. And they were very supportive of my relationship with my mom. And I had a birthday party. My birthday's in June. So my birthday that year was held at the hospital. And I really enjoyed that everyone came together to do that for me. My
Mhm.
mom got to write for the first time. She signed her name to my card, and it was her first time having solid food other than purees on my birthday as well. She had a bite of cake. So um, I stayed in this foster home, and my mom had to, of course, like she had to go stay in hospital, and she had to work her way out of intensive care and rehabilitate herself. So she was
Mhm.
not ready to take me home full time. But actually, September 11th attacks happened, and it really traumatized me because of what had been expressed to me by a teacher in school, actually. And I had returned to the foster home, and they only wanted to take me to get a haircut. But when they did, I thought they were going to take me out, and I was going to get blown up in a building. I had a breakdown, and my mom was living at home at this point, but still doing physio 3 times a week and not able to take care of me. She had a special thing to wrap around her deadbolt to lock it because she was not strong enough to lock her own door.
Mhm.
But I had to stay with my mom this night because I was just experiencing a lot of um, anxiety, and I was just afraid to go anywhere other than my mom's. So I had went to my mom's but wasn't ready to return home. So I was still in the foster home, settled that night, and then I had a breakdown the following Valentine's Day, still in the same foster home, over it was a discussion around my medication because I do have ADHD, and I think someone had mentioned to take my medication, and I had lost it. Um, I had lost it over feeling, I think, that there was something so wrong with me that I needed this medication.
Mm.
And I left this foster home. I was returned to my mom. Still, she
Mhm.
wasn't ready to take me back, but this is this is how it went. I actually built attachments to this foster family, and as much as I wanted to be home with my mom, I really missed this foster family too.
Okay.
My
Mm.
mom being a single mom, she did everything for me,
Mhm.
but this felt like a family with a mom and a dad, and
Mhm.
it just felt more like a family. And I had these sisters that were living with me, and I missed all of them. But life went on, and I was with my mom, and I was really happy to be with my mom, but I was acting out. I was lost. She could not parent me because I would just run out the door anytime she tried to uh, control me by like grounding me or anything like that. I would just leave.
Okay.
So I I ended up in a group home because my mom couldn't handle me
Hmm.
and how I was acting, but she didn't disown me. She was very involved and put me in voluntary care because she did not have any supports, and she was trying to get supports, but none were really offered to her, and she just wanted some help being a disabled single parent, and trying to do all the things. So
Hmm.
I ended up going into a group home, and I think I was exposed to more there, and
Hmm.
I wanted to get away with more, and I had more freedom as much as my mom was involved.
Is
It
this where
was I was
is this where you started experimenting with drugs?
I started experimenting with weed and just not listening, just doing whatever I wanted.
Hmm.
Um, so I ended up in another group home, and this is basically high school now where it really starts.
Hmm.
So I had started smoking weed, and then I had some friends that were trying some ecstasy, and I was never someone to fit in with one crowd of people. I never felt like I fully fit in with anyone.
Hmm.
I sort of fit in with a few different groups. So I would bounce around, and a particular group of friends from school were all trying ecstasy. And I had heard them doing it. And there was this boy that I had a crush on, and he was at a party doing it. And I decided to do it. So I went through a phase of that, but then I don't remember a whole lot other than my mom was not putting up with it. She
Hmm.
would not enable me. And I didn't like it, but she'd kick me out. It was you stay in school or and do what you're supposed to be doing, or no, I'm not going to support this.
Hmm.
Um, so I would stay elsewhere, whether it be that she would kick me out or I would just go off, and I started experimenting with like all kinds of drugs. It was never one specific drug. I was prescribed to Ritalin, and that was in high school something that I knew people wanted. And if I had Ritalin, then people would want to be around me, I guess. I don't even think I felt comfortable around these people,
Hmm.
but I wanted to fit in.
Hmm.
So I would do all the different drugs, but I never felt like I had a problem,
Right. Nothing
even
really got its
though
hooks in.
yeah, even though
Yeah.
my life was complete chaos. I was bouncing around from homeless shelter to homeless shelter and getting kicked out. I was
And you were how old
just
about this? About 16 at this time?
um 15
15, 16.
through to about 19 or 20.
Okay.
I was I was just experimenting with acid, ecstasy. Ritalin was more a thing that I would like give away or
Hmm.
sell
Hmm.
or you know.
Hmm.
But
So
I dabbled back.
how were you supporting yourself and your habits during that time frame?
During that time frame, it wasn't real heavy into it to the I don't really know. I wasn't working, but it was kind of whoever had money was the one that was supporting us today, or we'd find it. We'd just find it.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so I then I had gotten into um I'd gotten into perks, and I wasn't doing a whole lot, and I didn't think it was crazy. It was just a little thing. I enjoyed the buzz of it, but me and my friends weren't doing a whole lot. But then one day, well, actually, there was a few days, I had a friend that had started using oxys, and she had offered it to me on a few different occasions, and I had turned it down. And I had
Mm.
remembered in high school seeing a picture of someone on a stretcher, with a toe tag. And I'd remembered that image and that it said Oxycontin, and this was something you don't do. So I had said no a few times, but then the one day that this friend started doing this drug and never offered any to me, I said, well, can I have some?
You're like offended or something. How come you didn't give
I
me? Or how come
almost
you didn't?
almost you want what you can't have.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yep.
I there was a few friends there, and at this point I was doing perks, and it seemed like you had to do such a big amount and
Mm-hmm.
then to feel it. But then I did such a tiny amount, and I was vomiting. My head was in the toilet, not above the toilet. It was in the toilet. And I don't remember who said this to me, but someone said, "Are you okay?" And I said to them, "I've never been better with my head in the toilet."
Mm-hmm.
Strange,
Mm-hmm.
but I continued on, and it was a fun thing to do. It was like, look at this drug, and how I was almost bragging about it to other friends for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then it continued on, and that's when you feel the dope sickness
Mm-hmm.
set in,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's no
Did you
longer.
know what was happening the first time you went into withdrawal? Like, did anyone
I
warn you was going to happen, or like did it take you completely
I
off guard?
knew it was gonna happen
Hmm.
because my friend had explained that how she had gotten sick from it. She was
Mm-hmm.
experiencing withdrawal, but I thought I had like a few months before that would happen, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I could have my fun,
Or that they
and
were
then
exaggerating.
yeah, like it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was real, I think, but it was just that's not going to happen right away. That's not
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to happen right away, is what I
Mm-hmm.
thought. I
Mm-hmm.
really felt like it had to be for like a long time, but it wasn't really that long. And I remember then that's when it started to get bad. It
Mm-hmm.
was I remember going behind thrift stores and hauling. My friend Brittany's gonna laugh at this right now, but hauling dressers on my back up the
Mm-hmm.
road to have
Mm-hmm.
a yard sale to sell something for $80. And then Brittany was you didn't know where Brittany was. She was gone. She was gone to
Mm-hmm.
get her pill. So it was a constant cycle of what am I going to steal?
Mm-hmm.
Going out in
Well,
the nighttime.
you got into some pretty serious like shoplifting type activity as well, hey?
Yeah, so I ended up shoplifting to support my addiction. I had an older man that I knew wanted sexual favors, but I tried to drag him along to get whatever I could out of him, and that was a lot of the money that I got during that time. But then I did get on methadone a few years later. I was into the oxys for about 2 years, and then I got on methadone. And when
Mm-hmm.
I got on methadone, I was clean, and I had met a guy, and this is my oldest father, and he was also a former addict, but we were both clean. And he was working, I was in school. I don't think it was a very serious relationship. I felt like the dirty little secret. Don't know why I was that, but I felt like that's what I was. But our relationship wasn't real strong, but I found myself pregnant very soon into it. And when I found out I was pregnant, we we weren't we weren't in a position to have a kid, but
Hmm.
I I had my daughter and I was in active addiction, and he ended up back in active addiction and had a heart attack. We split up. I kept down that road and I ended up having my daughter, and I had some periods of clean time, but nothing where I kept going back to it, and real, nothing real substantial to me. So I I ended up losing my daughter because of everything that
Mhm.
was going on. And when I lost my daughter, I didn't I didn't think that this was the problem. It was, I just can't handle this and I need to cope. And it went from me at this time maybe using once a month to when my daughter was removed from my custody to using all night, all day. And it continued on like that with the Ritalin while I was on methadone. I ended up losing my visitation rights to my daughter, and then it got worse again.
Mhm.
Um, Before it got worse again, I lost my visitation and I tried to see if I could get this get sober thing, done right. Um, I started seeing a counselor and I changed my medication, and I was clean for a month. And it was Mother's Day, and in conversation with the social worker and foster parents, I was supposed to see my daughter on Mother's Day and I hadn't in a while. And the coordinate the that didn't get set up for some reason. It wasn't relayed to someone,
Mhm.
and I broke down on Mother's Day, and I had a friend who um was shooting up, and decided to just hang out with him that day. And I said, I'd like to try that.
Mhm.
So I did. And I was on opiates for a while I was on methadone, until I was shooting up one day and I had missed. And I said, I'm not going to my doctor's appointment until I get more drugs. And I didn't go back. And this cycle continued where I stole every day, multiple times a day, hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of merchandise to support my habit. Um, Taxi drivers had knew the vehicle because they were buying products off us, and they knew the vehicle. They would line up to come see my what we had.
Mhm.
And this just went on for a few months until I got arrested.
Mhm.
When I did get arrested, I thought that if I stayed in bed, they wouldn't come get me. They do. So they don't leave you there. So I got arrested, and they I there was a leak at the lockup. I spent 5 days there withdrawing, and I said, when I get out, I'm not going to use.
Mhm.
And I got out, and it was a full-on party at that house. And I was using like an hour later. And
Mhm.
then it was Remembrance Day, and our typical places we would hit up to steal weren't opened because it was a holiday. So we went to a liquor store express, and we had stole some liquor and traded it for morphine.
Mhm.
And so that night we were good and high. The next morning, again, this is only a week later, and the cops show up. And this time I know I'm not getting out.
Mhm.
And I'm locked up, and my friend and my twin's father, we were always together, and we were co-accused, and we all got arrested. Um, I They ended up getting out because my kid's grandmother had already had me out on a surety and couldn't get her son out. So she got him out. I got arrested. And in the lockup, all the girls were withdrawing. It was just puke wherever,
Mhm.
because we have no energy to move to the toilet. It
For
was
sure.
absolute, absolutely disgusting. Just
Mm.
it was. We were all miserable. So the girls said, "Tell him you're pregnant. You get extra food, and the sugars help with the withdrawal. And I guess you're gonna try it." So
Hmm.
I said I was pregnant, and I don't think they believed me because we were all pregnant.
Right. Yeah.
So they shipped me off to the correctional center. And when I get to the correctional center, you have to see the nurse. So a few days later, I see the nurse and they say, well, if you want to keep getting this pregnancy diet with that extra cheesecake, you're going to
Hmm.
have to
Here, pee on
get a
this.
be on this.
Yeah.
So, sure thing. I at this point you don't care. You're just going along for the ride.
Hmm.
And so the next morning they came in and it was first thing in the morning before breakfast and they hand me a cup and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I said I was pregnant. I got to pee in this cup now. Here's your cup." So then, day goes on. It's just after lunch. We're all getting ready to go in the yard. I think it might have been my first time going out in the yard. I was really excited. We're going to get some fresh air. It's something new to look at. And they say, "Stockley, in your cell." With that much aggression, I was like, okay, I'm in trouble, but what kind of trouble am I in? Because they could have some more charges or I don't know. So I go in and they say, "You're pregnant." At this point, no, I'm not. I was lying. "No, you're pregnant." "No, I'm lying." "Mm, no, your pregnancy test says you're pregnant." "How do you know how far along you are?" And at this point, from the drug use, I hadn't had a period in a number of years. So I had no idea. So the
Hmm.
girls, we had to get me in for a dating ultrasound. So a few weeks had passed, and the girls, the other inmates were saying, like, "Brittany, how far along are you? Like, you got a bread baby from all that bread you're eating and stuff." And it's like, I don't know. And then it was, "You look like you're 5 months pregnant." I was 90 pounds soaking wet and now I got this little belly.
Yeah.
So I go for my ultrasound. Fortunately, it's out of town, so it wasn't as bad as being in town where everyone I knew was from, but we go. And I'm with the guards and I lay on the bed and the man says to me during my ultrasound, he says, "Are there any twins in your family?" And I say, "No." And he said, "Well, there are now." And I look at him and I say, "That's a pretty shitty joke to play on the one that's cuffed to the bed."
Yeah.
So I see the guard, and the guard's face looks pretty serious, and she's looking at the screen. So I look at the screen, and there's two babies. There's two babies. I don't even know how to hold two babies. I have no rights. I'm not even allowed around kids because I'm in active addiction. Like I can't even see my daughter, but I'm
Hmm.
trying to imagine holding two babies. And anyways, I go back to my cell, or I go back to the jail and go back to my cell and I tell my cellmate, I wake her up, I'm like, "There's two babies. There's two babies." And I knew, if I'm being completely honest, I when I found out I was pregnant, it was still earlier on and I was still having those thoughts of using dreams. And I was still feeling like I wanted to feel that shaky floor where like I can't hold the walls and I have to strip all my clothes off and like I can hardly breathe. I wanted to feel that. And the fact that it was twins was like, it's a high risk pregnancy. If you get out, you can't do that. It wasn't even, I didn't want to hurt the babies, but I thought that maybe if you're pregnant on one baby, like you could get away with it. And I thought that two babies, it was a high risk pregnancy. So that
Hmm.
was one part that made me, this is a high risk pregnancy. But I had conversations with my mom, and it was my mom, me having a realization when I finally got sober, when the drugs weren't in my system, and this eye-opening moment of, you're in jail, you're pregnant, on twins. You have a daughter that you don't see. You have an amazing mother that only wants you to do well for yourself. And I'm in jail. Like this is not where this is supposed to how this is supposed to go. So I need
Mm-hmm.
to get clean. So I called the social workers from the jail, and I called the lawyer that was representing me prior, and we laugh about it now, but it was a oh shit situation, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I told the social workers, I said, you're gonna hear from me when I get out, and you're gonna hear from me a lot, and I'm gonna do everything and anything and then some
Mm-hmm.
to work on my addiction and show you guys that as long as I'm clean and doing what I need to do, you won't have a reason to take my kids. So
Mm-hmm.
I seen the light, and I knew that like my twins were probably not going to come home from the hospital with me. It's not going to be the ideal go home with your babies, but I knew that this was what I had to do. In active addiction, high on coke, up for days, I would obsessively make to-do lists. Not once did it say go to rehab. Not once.
Mm-hmm.
So I think once I finally had no drugs in my system,
Mm-hmm.
everything was coming to my mind. Then it was coming to my head, and I was saying, okay, like this is what's before I was flying by the seat of my pants and just doing everything, not thinking about anything. And it was time to think, and the
Mm-hmm.
drugs weren't blocking me from doing that. So
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I had to do everything and anything, and I was hoping to get out on house arrest. And I didn't. I served 4 months, and then I got out, and I attended. There was some group addictions addictions groups in the
Mm-hmm.
prison that I availed of. You could only avail them if you weren't on remand, so I couldn't avail them until after I was sentenced.
Right.
But I was begging for everything and anything. For one, for the advocacy to show, and for two, to this time, I wanted to know about my addiction and learn about it and understand. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is why I do it. And this is, to
Mm-hmm.
understand this is why I've been doing it for so long, because there are pros in a sense to using or how we felt at that time. So
Mm-hmm.
I got out and I went to addictions groups, and I went to individual counseling. I was seeing two counselors. I connected with a great counselor that I had met prior when I wasn't ready. She was offering a group, and I had met her at that one time that I'd gone to the group, and I broke down and I wasn't ready for this group. But this time I think I was ready, and I was very fortunate to have this counselor see me, and a few other people that I was seeing in the groups. And I met some great friends who introduced me to NA, where I was very active in early in my recovery. Once my kids did come home with me, I was then a single mom,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I can't get out. So to the meetings as much as I would like. So I scaled back from that, but at 18 months, I was um, I was celebrating. My mom came with me to my meeting. I was still dealing with my kid's father, who was in active addiction, which was a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But I we were trying to make it work, and it wasn't working because he was going behind my back. But this day I wanted him to come with me, and he was using, and I didn't want to go with him. So I called my mom, and she came with me. And this was the only meeting she went with me to. But this particular meeting, she wrote on my card. I had a card and a cake and my medallion and such. And she wrote on my card, she said, "If I die now, I die a happy woman." Now, that might be a little deep, but my mom always said when I was in active addiction, if I died now, I'd die a sad woman.
Hmm.
Because she just wanted me to have my life, to be happy. She wanted me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so she wrote that on my card. And although my mom was healthy at this time, she took a stroke a week later. And I was going over to her house and I found her stroking and she was unresponsive. And um, I went to her house with my twins in the car and they were um, still in rear facing car seats. So there I'm by myself. She's unresponsive. That was a whole situation that was obviously really hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew then I had stopped seeing my counselors because we had all kind of felt like Brittany was in a good place and I would reach out if I felt the need.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really afraid that am I gonna panic? Am I gonna pass out? Is someone gonna have to call an ambulance for me at the wake, at the funeral? I really didn't know what was gonna happen, how I was gonna react. But I was very vigilant with my doctors and told them, well, first, when I first got out of jail, that don't give me Ritalin because I will sell or abuse them. And this time I had expressed to my doctors that, I don't want anything like an Ativan. Not that some people can't, but I don't want to experience a dependency to that. But I'm really fearful that I'm gonna like end up needing an ambulance called or anything, just not knowing what was gonna happen. But I reached out to my counselor and we reconnected for a bit. And mine and my sister's relationship uh, is pretty strong.
That's good.
She took my twins and she would not have taken my twins to take more kids on. She has her own kids and it would be a lot. She wouldn't, I don't think, have committed to that. But she she did take the twins because they seen that this was different. This time was not about um trying to get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Before I would try to have other people micromanage my life, or I would try to get like, hey, I have these pills, I still need them, I don't want to give up the prescription because it's still money, but can you hold on to them and give
Mm-hmm.
them to me when I ask? And if I ask for too much, then don't give them,
Great. Yep. Gotcha.
um so that's the type of stuff I was doing. But i I basically said I'm not going to take any Ritalin. I'm not going to take anything like that. Be open with
Mm-hmm.
everyone, connect with as many people as I can, and try to be honest with my feelings. Um, but I use my mom as my strength. It's all she ever wanted. She was such a fighter, and um, she did so much being a single mom, and that's all she wanted. So that's my gift to her after everything that I've put her through.
Mm-hmm.
I still struggle too because I have some illnesses too,
Mm-hmm.
not to the extent of my mom's, obviously, but my mom had some autoimmune conditions prior to her neuropathy paralysis. And I am diagnosed and undiagnosed for a few conditions, but sharing my recovery, and that I feel that later later in life, I feel, or at this point in my life, I should be further. And obviously with my trauma and my addiction, I haven't gotten through all those steps, but
Mm-hmm.
I did just finish my first year carpentry course.
Good job. Nice
And
pipes there.
oh yeah, this is
Yeah.
my strong arm. But I finished my first year carpentry course. I My physical illnesses actually prevent me from working a 40-hour a week job. Now,
Mhm.
I've been looking for like 30-hour a week jobs, but as a single parent, a lot of the jobs here in construction are fly out, drive out, you're gone. Not something that could accommodate a single parent whose children are in daycare. So I'm
Mhm.
not working right now, but sharing my recovery gives me purpose,
Mhm.
because although I can't do everything that I would like right now while investigating a lot of my health, it also keeps me vigilant to where I came from,
Mhm.
what I've gone through, and I just really hate seeing people going through all of that and not knowing what to do, where to turn, who to turn to, feeling so alone,
Mhm.
and they could just want to end it all. And I've been there. I have definitely been there. Like, I was on methadone, and there were times that I wanted to pick up multiple carries, and this was how I would do it.
Mhm.
And, now I might be a single mom, might deal with a lot with being a single mom
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
two baby daddies, and not having a mom, and my dad's not in my life.
Mhm.
Um, but I just waking up, I feel it here now. Like, I feel it here. I remember the first time I laughed. I don't remember what it was about, but my first time laughing in jail. And it was a real sober from the gut. And it was like, oh, to feel that and to
Mhm.
not be that numb, that, like, although I laughed, it was so, I didn't feel it. I didn't
Mhm.
feel any of the joy from that. And I get up now and I'm happy. I have hard days, but they are nowhere near the best day in active addiction. I could have
Right.
all the money in active addiction, would not compare to life now and
Mhm.
all the things that I've been missing out on. I can't even
Well,
express it, you know?
well, and you have a very shall I say entertaining TikTok account where you share a lot of that sort of joy and passion that you now have in life, and you post a lot of
I
really fun
try to
stuff, and it's really
I
wonderful to
try to
see.
keep it real. This
Mhm.
week, this past month, I have been to the funeral home more times this month than I've been ever in my life. My best friend, my best childhood friend, lost his dad and his mom in the
Mhm.
past 2 weeks. And um he's my best friend. He's like my brother. So I've been there, and I like to share the raw, the real, the ugly, but I try to keep it more positive, but I
Mhm.
don't want to be fake in that this other shit doesn't happen, because it does happen, but
Mhm.
you can work through it. You
Mhm.
can face it, people can help you through that stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah, I try to share it all.
And where do people find you on TikTok?
My name?
Like, what's your? I'm not really familiar with
Oh,
TikTok. Is it like a
A
hashtag,
handle.
a
What's
handle,
your
whatever?
TikTok handle?
What's your TikTok handle?
There we go.
like, I like a hashtag that I use all the time. I use all the hashtags. I create custom furniture, so I use furniture with purpose for because I share my passion. I've also found in my recovery my passion for art, my passion for creating, and that's where my woodworking came from. It actually came from a bit of substitution. I started collecting mugs. I went really crazy collecting mugs, and I wanted a coffee bar. Um, so I built a coffee bar, and then I was like, I want to build all the things. So my sister kind of pushed me. She was like, "That's really cool. You built that. You should
Mhm.
go build some more stuff." And I was like, "Okay, I'll go build some more stuff." So now all the furniture in my house that's not a couch or a bed, I've built. I share
Awesome.
that. And but yeah, I'm Heartwood and Home Studio on TikTok and Instagram.
Okay.
But I use all the recovery hashtags. I share more about my recovery, but that's my passion that I like to share as well because I know a lot of other addicts in recovery that have found their their passion since getting clean. And so if I share that, maybe other people will, and it helps me. It helps me occupy my mind and my idle time
Mm-hmm.
and my confidence. I think confidence and your self-esteem has a lot to do with addiction. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel my confidence has come from because I always looked at other people and in a way that they're so confident. They just seem like they're being themselves. And I wish I was confident enough and comfortable enough to just be myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely working through it. I feel that the more goals that I set and achieve, they're the promises that I'm keeping to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And those promises that I keep to myself, because I'm keeping them, I know I can trust myself because I'm keeping I'm keeping my promises to myself. And in trusting myself, I'm building that confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of all around try to work on all the aspects.
Yep.
I'm still a work in progress though.
Aren't we all? That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
you're doing fantastic. So I don't know, like we've got a few comments to put up on screen here. Rebecca,
Mhm.
and I'm sorry if I blundered your last name, Rebecca. Thank you for your comment. But Rebecca Keogh, I think.
Keo, yeah.
Yeah, oh, good. Yay!
Hey
And
girl.
she wants to say, I love hearing your recovery story. It's not over yet, sweets. The best is yet to come. Lovely.
Definitely. I'm
And
looking forward to see what all those things are. If I only knew the gifts of recovery and what has already come to me, I know that there's more coming. I'm just waiting for it.
and she must be a
Not waiting for
close
it, I'm working for it.
working for it. Yes. So she must be a close friend because she goes on to say, "You and your mugs."
She's one of my best friends. We're really close.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
I've only met her since my recovery, but she's someone that inspires me. And I like to keep all those positive people in my corner, and she's my positive person, and I love her.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We don't really have any more questions for you. I mean, you really did an awesome job of telling us your story, and I want to thank you very much for that. Is there anything that you'd like to leave us with tonight?
I've thought about this, and there's so much to think about. The one thing, and I've heard other people talk about this, but if you are in active addiction and you're complacent and thinking, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm going to get clean tomorrow. I'm going to do it today, but I'm going to get high. Oh, I'm going to get high first. And then you decide you're going to do it tomorrow. If that's the case, or if you think that, this is shit and you can't get out of this, or just know that it can get so much worse. Your rock bottom, your basement that you're in that you think is your rock bottom might not be. It can go much deeper than that. You can have crawl space underneath, and if you keep going, you're going to be underground. That's just the bottom line. But there's a beautiful life in recovery, and we've got a bunch of people to share that message.
Very well put. Thank you very much. That's a very positive message to leave us with.
Thank you.
And I think that we're going to let you go for the evening.
Okay, well, awesome. I really appreciate you having me on with you tonight. And
I really appreciate you.
We'll be chatting again soon.
I hope so.
All right. Thank you. Have a good
care.
night. You too.
That threw me. There's music now here too. Right on. There is power in numbers. If you'd like to contribute to ending the stigma around emotional pain, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow on Twitch, Facebook, and Instagram, like and comment your thoughts on our posts, and let us come together with our lived and living experience as a resource that has the power to engage new thought processes, to promote new ideas, to broaden the spectrum of care, and to show the world that we can recover. There is a safer way, and we're here to show you how. Take care, everyone, and have a good night.